Long ago, 5 men set out from their own paths to achieve their own destinies. Now they are brothers, united under one cause. Alone they are strong, together they are unbreakable. They are bonded by metal.
Welcome back to Bonded by Metal. And last time you saw Imperitus and I together, just a mere month ago, close to that, a little over that, whatever, we were doing the albums ranked with Thrash Metal Legends Testament. We did, of course, a review that followed on the new album very shortly after. However, the albums ranking today we're doing does not have a new album to follow that. But however, we're like, we need to do another band because that Testament one was a lot of fun. We back and forth on some ideas. And then I was like, dude, Morbid Angel. That's freaking it. And so here we are getting ready to do Morbid Angel. And of course, naturally, Imperitus is here to join me for it. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, looking forward to talking about this. I mean, not to out myself as the old bastard that I am, but when I was in high school, this is one of the bands I listened to a lot. Like a lot. But then again, at the time, they also only had 2 albums out, so.
Yeah, I get you, man.
But
I mean,
they were for a long time, they were in my top 5.
I believe it. Yeah. Morbid Angel, when I was getting into death metal, they were instantly one of my favorite death metal bands. I got into them right around the time when Steve Tucker's in the band.
Oh, really?
So this is, I think they're touring off. They were, not I think, I know they were. They're touring off of Gateways to Annihilation. And of course, they had gone some high profile tours with Pantera and Slayer. So that was a big deal for a band like that because I was like, oh, okay, what a name, Morbid Angel. That really struck out to me. The logo stood out too. It was like, that looks really like extreme to me. And then I heard the sound, and I was just like, holy shit, this is wild. And of course, I listened to that. I remember seeing a video of Phil Anselmo singing Day of Suffering for them, which I didn't know at the time, which I later learned was from Blessed Are the Sick. Well, I was just like, okay, so clearly this has the Phil Anselmo stamp of approval. I need to look into these guys. And I was just so blown away by how heavy and fast they were. And then my first albums I bought were Altars of Madness and Gateways to Annihilation. So I got one David Vincent and one Steve Tucker albums. And I listened to them both obsessively. And of course, I got into the other albums. Then history went on. There's ups, some downs. We'll get into as we talk about our rankings. But yeah, obviously, it's a band I've grown to love. And it's definitely a band that has also been quite through the ringer, is particularly in the American side of things. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think they kind of took a hit, I guess you could say, from the fans when Dave Vincent left and we got Steve Tucker. And I met Steve. He was a nice guy. A lot nicer than other people in the band, shall we say.
Oh.
I'll tell the story. I got a press pass when I was doing my fanzine to go see them and to do an interview with them. Talk to their manager before their set. Like, oh, hey, could I get a couple of the guys to do an interview? Oh, after their set. Okay. He's like, catch up with the band when they're done. I caught up with them. Oh, no, we're not doing any interviews. Like, oh, okay. Thanks, Trey. You're a nice guy.
Well, I think that I've noticed like they have not done a single show since 2023 when they did that one tour. Did you hear about that show where they played in my state where the roof collapsed?
No, I didn't.
So
I'm kind of surprised I didn't.
They were doing a tour, and I think Revocation was the direct support for it. And they finished that one tour, but it was the one where it was in this town called Belvedere, Illinois, and the roof collapsed on. Look it up. If you're out there listening.
Believe it.
Yeah, I'm just giving reference for those listening. Look it up. Belvedere, Illinois, Morbid Angel, the roof collapsed. Unfortunately, a few people died. I think the second band was starting. I think they're called Crypta, something like that. I can't remember, but it was Morbid Angel and Revocation didn't even get to play. But they did that tour, and they're supposed to do a tour late 2024, which they actually ended up dropping, and their competition band, I Am Morbid, replaced them. Of course, they did. Doing the tour, which was supposed to be with Suffocation. And I have heard news up and down, left, right, and center, and I don't know if it's true, but would I be surprised if it was true? Not in the slightest. I hear Trey has a lot of issues to work with, and I think I know what they all allude to, probably drugs and alcohol, because it's an old cliche that still, though it's not as dominant in our press in the metal waves, it still plays a part, particularly more so with some of our older guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So, without further ado, shall we rank some albums?
Yeah, I think we should, because
I
we
think
got
we should too.
8 to do here. And
9.
ranging from killer to what were you guys thinking?
Okay, so Altars of Madness, I'll start off. I'm going to go with number 3 on this one. Now, before we did this list, I actually thought I was going to get this one to number 2 or 1, but going back and giving a listen, I still love it. I love it a lot, even. Obviously, it was a big deal of an album for me. Getting into it was my first David Vincent album. The vocals blow me away. Of course, there's some all-timers here. I mean, Immortal Rights, Chapel of Ghouls, some of the most memorable songwriting. Like, ba-na-na. Incredible. There's just memorable parts after memorable parts. It's a front-to-back album. It's one of the all-time greats. Of course, you got the incredible Dan Seagrave art that has dominated T-shirts, flags, banners. It's just incredible cover, and every song on there freaking jams. And oh man, it's just such a good album. But there's just ones I like more. But once again, number 3 out of 9 is still not bad. So
No, top third.
I'll be a little bit quick and to the point on that one. But where is your ranking on Altars of Madness?
I'm going to put Altars of Madness at number 2.
Ooh.
Because, like you said, there's so many killer tracks on there, and some of my all-time favorites are on there, like Lord of All Fevers and Plague.
Yeah,
And, that's got such a crunch to it. Is the best way to put it. Chapel of Ghouls, like you said, Maze of Torment, Bleed for the Devil, and it's also, in my opinion, too, it's also that era of crossover in a way between thrash and death metal. Yeah,
I agree. I strongly
the album
agree.
was
There's
a little more thrashy
Uh-huh.
than it was death metal, but it was not quite thrash, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense because you can even make the same argument with Eaten Back to Life from Cannibal Corpse.
Yes.
You can tell there's a bit of a like thrash proto death metal thing going on, especially with the vocals per se. So yeah, a lot of these bands who became obviously essential death metal bands definitely had more of a thrash thing going on, and Morbid Angel were no exception to the rule.
I believe a lot of them started as thrash or a more extreme form of thrash in some way, and then well you can't sing. No offense to any of those guys, because if they could, they would. I would imagine. So, and that leads to the more guttural, or as Pope likes to say, the desiccated howl of death metal.
Desiccated out, yeah.
But yeah, this album I ranked number 2.
Okay, a 3 and a 2. All right, well, let's get on to the B. So yes, for those of you who do not know, Morbid Angel released their full-length albums alphabetically, quite literally, A, B, C, D. Now, there are some outliers, E, Entangled in Chaos, which is the E album, is a live album, and then there's the J album, which I think was some live songs and some remixes. So we're not doing those, and we're not doing the demo Abominations of Desolation.
Which they doubled up on A.
Yeah, they technically doubled up on A, and a lot of those songs end up being on all these albums later anyway. So in case you're wondering, hey, you're putting the code, where's that one? It's not in here for a
We're generally not going to cover demos or remaster albums or live albums in general, unless there's a really good reason to.
Yeah, there's a good reason to. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But we're going to get to the second album, a.k.a. the B album, Blessed Are the Sick. So, this one, I'm going to give a number 2. And originally, I thought of getting this one going into it about a 3, actually. I was like, really, Altars, Blessed. Now I'm Blessed Altars. And this one, that was an interesting one for me because I remember Trevor from the Black Diamond Murder always mentioned this was his one. Like, he loved them all, outside of the Eye, of course. But this was his go-to. And I disagreed with him. I was like, really? Like, Blessed Are the Sick? I mean, it's great. It's a good album. But compared to Altars, a Covenant, thought that was blasphemous. Funny because I'm saying blasphemous, so it's something about Morbid Angel. But you know, I've gone back to this one, and it's so much better than I remember. And then you know, obviously he lived on to be a few years older than me. I don't know if it was the seasoned listener in him. And now I guess you could say when I disagree with him, that was over a decade ago. So now I'm about as seasoned as he was. And I was like, holy crap. I think our man here had a point because, yeah, it's a bit slower, but man, the song heavier. You can see the transition in David's voice. Like he still has a little bit of that thrashier sound going on, but you could hear a shift changing with the vocals. And then there's some songs where it's just an absolute speed rush. And it's just like, holy damn. Usually, like, albums drive me crazy when they have like a quiet instrumental, but in this album, it actually works after all the brutality you've been dealt. It's just like a very quiet, somber, like, oh wow, I've taken all that beating and I can rest now. So I thought, oh damn, that's cool. I actually works. Like I was actually surprised. Usually that shit to me like takes me out of the album. This one, I'm like, okay, I can roll with this one. So I would have to say my favorite songs, appropriate enough. One of them is the re-recording of Abominations from Abominations of Desolation, and of course, Day of Suffering. Ooh, it's you know it starts and it stops, and man, you can feel the
not to be cliche, but it's
power
brutal
of what they were building to. Yeah, number 2 for me. Where are you at, Imperius? I want to hear your thoughts.
I love this album because, like I said, when I was in high school, the only albums that were out were Altars and this one. It's my number 3, even though, like I said, I love this album. There's so many songs on here I love, like the Ancient Ones, Unholy Blasphemies, Day of Suffering, Brainstorm. But the production, the drums are so out of whack on the production. You can't hear the kick drums.
Yeah, you're right.
The snares are super loud, and the bass drums sound. You can hear them, but they don't sound like a bass drum. And if they had a better overall production, you know, this would be my number 1 for sure. Because this just has so many songs that when I think Morbid Angel, this is one of the albums, and some of these tracks are the ones that pop into my head.
You know, I wonder when I was younger if that was one of the things. Like, I wish I could like go back and visit my younger self and then think, what was it that bugged me so much? And maybe that was one of the contributing factors, because there have been some albums where some of the songs, or sorry, the sound on some of the albums definitely have some production issues, and this one is definitely no exception to the rule. I mean, maybe that's what it was.
Some of my friends always laugh at me when I comment on an album's production. They're like, dude, you listen to black metal.
Right. The irony is not lost on us, dear viewers.
It's one of those things, but I can also discern what good production is.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because I have heard some of the worst of the worst.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you know, and not just in black metal, in death metal too. But yeah, this album, if it had a better production, would be my number 1. And like you said, the last track, which is an nice mellow instrumental, In Remembrance, it's great. Good. It's catchy for what it is. It
had no business being that good, but
no, not at all. Very melancholy. It's not depressive. No. But like the name of the track is, you're in remembrance. You're thinking back. You know.
It's a fitting name. It really is. I'm glad you mentioned that. It really is one of those ones where it actually serves the album. Because usually, once again, that takes me out of the album experience. But that one's like, okay, you guys did. So funny how you and I are crisscrossed with our 2 and 3s. We're just like,
and again,
X-Men with it.
This is one of the very few death metal bands I've gotten my non-metal friends to like a track or 2 out of. And the one I got one of my buddies to really dig was the Ancient Ones.
Yeah.
He thought like the solos were just insane. The vocals weren't too harsh. You know, the little drum fills that they were throwing in as part of the lead were just chef's kiss on that song.
They were
my fave.
They were one of those bands that definitely, even though they were a death metal band, they were one of the ones who definitely had a more, it's just weird because I don't feel like they're any more accessible than some of the other bands. I'd actually make the argument they're less accessible, but yet somehow they resonated with people who weren't really all that into death metal.
They did on the first 2 albums. It's the vocals. The first 2 albums, the vocals weren't as harsh. They were harsh, and they were harsher than a lot of the thrash that was out at the time, but it wasn't pure guttural, pig squeal death metal vocals.
Yeah. And maybe that was what it was. It definitely could be that. So okay, well, we're a 3 and a 2 and a 2 and a 3. Shall we get to the C?
Yes.
All right. So okay, Covenant. Ooh boy, do I have some history with this one. Okay, this is gonna be early, but I gotta say it. It's a number 1, and I know some of my buddies in Chicago, they're gonna get mad, say, how dare you? Altars should be the number 1. Some of them are gonna try to be all cavilled. Abomination, the desolation.
Oh God.
Nah, dude, stop. Don't be a pretender. Half of you weren't even alive when that shit. Yes, I was 6 when Covenant was out, but guess what? When I listen to these songs, stop judging the shit based on what you're attached to and your pride. Put that
Thank you
pride
for
aside.
making me feel like the old bastard that I am there.
Look at this shit objectively, and you can hear the songwriting is just so much stronger on this album. It really is. It is so strong. It's my favorite album. It's got one of the all-time great openers and then one of the all-time greatest closers on any metal album in history. Not just death metal album. And I've heard the David Vincent's vocals with Macho Man and the singing. If this is what Macho Man sounds like, I don't care because I love it. I love it. And of course, having that Beavis and Butthead cameo was fucking hilarious. Oh man, I love it. But for me, the natural favorites, Pain Divine, oh, so good. And then of course, God of Emptiness, the closer. It is just, to me, that is a perfect closer and a perfect song. It's a number 1 for me. I have a feeling you're probably going to be at a toss-up with that one. Let's hear it, Imperative, from my number 1 to your
we
number.
are in agreement on that album.
Oh, we're in agreement.
Yeah, well, like we were kind of talking about before we started recording, going back and listening to these albums, some opinions kind of shifted as our tastes have evolved and whatever else. But this album has so many good songs on it. Like you said, one of the best opening tracks of all time. One of the best closing tracks of all time. And the first time I heard God of Emptiness in years, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how good this song was. Like, just
so good.
Amazing. And then you had stuff like Angel of Disease, which is very reminiscent of the Altar days.
Mm-hmm.
Vengeance is Mine, like you said, Pain Divine, Blood on My Hands. I mean, this album is one of those ones where you can legitimately say, and it's probably the only one out of their catalog, in my opinion, that you can say is all killer, no filler.
I agree.
Because there's a couple tracks even on Altars that I don't dislike. I'm just meh on.
They're just not as good. Just not as good. I agree. Strong. I'm not saying that to save face. I strongly agree with that. I think every song on here is an absolute banger. I feel like it's an album of standouts, yet somehow they all flow together.
And I'm going to disagree with you a little bit
on
the Beavis and Butthead appearance. Because if you go back and look, they mocked every single death metal band. Every single one. The only things that they praised was mainstream shit. So, I mean, when you're shredding death, come on now. Say what you will about Chuck singing, but the musical brinksmanship that Death had.
Oh no, it was incredible.
Anyway,
for me, that was hilarious because of their humor. Even though I disagreed with them on death metal, I thought it was
funny. Don't get me wrong. Oh yeah, it was. Oh, what was that? A bear?
The bear. And what was it? Butthead who singing?
The chorus.
Dude, I still put that shit on a replay and I laughed my ass off.
Yeah, I will admit that one was funnier than the death one and the entombed one.
Oh yeah, they did have Entombed. I forgot about it.
They
was
did
that the Wolverine Blues days, or was that Clandestine?
It was I want to say it was Clandestine and it was Stranger Eons. It was either that or Wolverine Blues.
Okay.
But it was about that time towards the tail end of Clandestine and then the beginning of Wolverine Blues. So it could have been either or, but I want to say it was Stranger Eons. That's so good too.
I'll have to follow up on that. Oh man. So okay. So we're both at numero uno right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we're a third of the way through. And we're gonna get to the D, and not that D. I
Settle
see you
down,
there.
Culture
Yeah.
Casino.
Or yeah, Culture Casino, huh? We're gonna get to the D, the fourth album, aka titled Domination. So this album originally for me, we're gonna get to production issues. Um, it definitely is a bit muddier, that's for sure. It definitely is much, much muddier. However, I love the Macho Man vocals, and I would say I do have fonder memories of this album more recent years than I did then. I feel like it's a strong album in its own merits. I just feel like the only one of its biggest flaws is that it's competing against everything else that came before. This was, let's just say, any other band's debut album. This would be like their finest hour or one of them at the very minimum. But this album is following up all the greatness that it did. So it basically funnily enough, it's paying for the sins of the fathers. However, there are some issues with this one. The foreshadowing of what would become some of these sounds on the I album rear its head in the background, like almost like a subconscious thing. You're like, oh, that's where it started. That's where the groundwork, the ground zero is laid out in some of this stuff in the album. Interestingly enough, though, one of the songs that has that foreshadowing, I love Inquisition, Burn With Me.
Such a good track.
I love it. Even though it sadly laid that groundwork for the I album. And Dawn of the Angry. I know it'd be easy to say eyes to see, ears to hear. It's a great song, but I want to give shout out to other songs that don't get enough recognition. And those two songs do not get the credit that they deserve. But of course, with a Domination, I didn't give my my numero number for it. I'm gonna go with number 5 on my ranking. So we done 1, 2, and 3 on my side, and this is number 5 for me. Where are you at in Paris with Domination?
Domination for me is number 4.
Okay.
And no, I'm not just going in numerical order with these albums. Not that I am, but I don't want anybody to think like, hey, wait a minute. There's so many good tracks on here though. Like you said, Dawn of the Angry, This Means War, Where the Slime Live. And I put Dominate almost as high as I do Rapture for an opening. And here's also the other thing, like you were talking about, and Caesar's Palace is damn good too.
Oh yeah. Oh dude. Oh, what a good track. Such a good track.
One thing I will point out is if you go and look at the label they were on at this time, Giant Records in the US and Earache in the UK.
Okay.
Some of the other bands Giant Records had at the time. Let's see here. Air Supply. What else is Kenny Rogers? Warren Zevon. Oingo Boingo. Letters to Cleo. Deep Purple. You know, not exactly known for metal, so there's all this stuff, and then there's Morbid Angel.
I think it worked to their advantage, if I'm going to be fair here.
Did, but
I
also
got them a lot of recognition. This was one of their biggest selling albums.
Yeah, it was.
Far and large.
Pretty killer artwork on the cover, too.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say probably that they weren't told to tone it down, but I'm pretty sure whatever producer that they had, even though then again, maybe not because it was recorded in Morrisound. Might have had something to do with some of the stuff but they've also, contrary to, I'm not sure if you noticed, but they've used keyboards throughout their entirety.
Yes.
Even in Altars, there were some keyboard interludes in the songs that actually worked.
Yes.
But you are right at the beginning of that more industrial-esque sound with their synth started with this album for sure. Look at Hate Work.
Oh, yeah.
Good song, but
yeah.
But it's one of those things like you look back and go, oh, I see where it started.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like, funnily enough, this was after this album, David Vincent, outside of the Entangled in Chaos E, aka live album, he was out after this. So it makes you wonder, was that like, hey, I want to go further in this direction? And this is me getting my conspiratorial hat on. and then Trey may have rejected that idea. Maybe that's what led to it, because I never actually looked into why they initially split. I know obviously Vincent went to join his then girlfriend or wife at that time in that band Torturers, which definitely seems like he was going in that direction. He even went by that name, Evil D, which please don't look up photos of Evil D online. It's something. Imperatus?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
sorry.
I'll let that lose.
Sorry. Yeah, it's from what I heard, that was kind of what it was. Is he wanted to experiment more, and the other guys in Morbid were just, no, we're gonna do our thing. This is our bread and butter. What the fuck is wrong with you? We just got signed to a major label as a death metal band. The only death metal band, hell, the only metal band on that label. The other heavy thing that I saw on the listing on Wikipedia was Disturbed.
Oh wow, geez.
And that was, yeah, and everything else, like I said, Kenny Rogers and Air Supply were on that label.
Wow. Holy crap, I did not know that. See, you're
Yes.
putting me in on that information.
Yes.
Wow.
So, but then again, he had an easy out with his wife's band. Because that's what he went and did. He went and played with the Torturers for a while.
Yeah, he did have an extensive run there, longer than I would have assumed. But hey, it did work for him for a bit. I guess a good old divorce will change that.
One thing I have learned over the years as a metal fan, or just as a fan of anything, we will never ever truly know what the actual story is.
No, God.
Even hearing as multiple sides as we can on an issue, we'll still never know.
No,
because people want to save face. They don't want to throw other people under the bus, whatever the case may be.
Or if they do, it will be it's everyone's fault but mine.
Yes. I'm sure there was a bit of that going on in this circumstance.
Oh, I'm sure there was.
I mean, but then again, as has been stated over the years, and I've been privy to some of these conversations with some of the people I hung out with, egos were huge in this band, like far bigger than they had any right being for the time. It's like, dude, you're in a death metal band. You're not in Van Halen. Stop it.
Well, Trey was being compared to Eddie Van Halen in this guitar skill, which I kind of get it, man. He really is legit.
He is really legit. He's very good.
He's
amazing.
That damn good. He's that damn good. Well, okay. Well, I guess that's your 4 and that's my 5. Let's get to the Steve Tucker era. So this is where things take a bit of a turn. So formulas fatal to the flesh. So for those of you who do not know, the artwork is so 90s. It's redundant. Imagine all those terrible computer graphics you saw in elementary school on that, that box TV that was wheeled on a cart to you, and you're watching a video on a demonstration. And you saw all those terrible computer generated images on that TV, that bubble TV. That's what this cover is. Those terrible images you saw in elementary school in the 90s, but put on death metal form. Now, obviously, for those of you not in the know, formulas fatal to the flesh. They're going for the FFF because 666, and it was their 6th album, even though it's their actual 5th album in studio language. For me, this album, God. So you ready? I'm ranking this. I'm gonna go to number 7 on this one.
Wow. Okay.
Number 7. So okay, I will say a few things here because I will always give credit where it's due. This album spawned the band Heaving Earth because there's a band that took the name of the song Heaving Earth and became a band called Heaving Earth. Cool, awesome. Now, I will also say there are some bangers on this song. I mean, like some really strong songs. Prayer of Hatred is killer. Nothing is not. But then there's some tracks I'm like, what? Dude, what are you doing here? Like, I feel like they're going so many directions. I'm like, okay, you guys aren't big as like bipolar as Mr. Bungle, but however, there's too many directional shifts that this doesn't make sense for you guys. And there's songs with song titles I couldn't pronounce, like this Hymnos of the something. I'm like, I don't know. Then they did that 9-minute song, Invocation of the Continual One, and that shit needed to go on a diet, man. Like, if this album is let's just say a great value butter, that song is the fucking margarine butter of this album. So I can't believe I made a butter analysis about it and made it work, but it really did. And dude, way too many instrumentals. I'm like, what is with all these instrumentals? Like, I need some brutality in my Morbid Angel. I mean, when you have these type of things, they should stand out. It should be very rare and, well, stand out, as I mentioned earlier. But this here is just like, it's too much of it. So, I know it has its fans. It seems like it's definitely gained more fans in the last 10 years, which I still don't get. But for me, it's a number 7. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Imperatus, where are you at on Formula's Fatal to the Floor?
You're definitely right on this one. Although I would say the album cover kind of reminds me almost of a Judas Priest album cover.
What?
So, yeah, kind of that era. If I could think of the albums off the top of my head, and I'm going to get crucified by all of you guys for not remembering these albums. But there was that era like where Judas Priest had like the mechanical things.
Well, yeah,
like,
they
the
had
various
one on Defenders of the Faith. They did.
Yeah, they all had like
Vengeance.
Yes, it was almost kind of in that vein, but death metaled up, like you said.
Okay.
But not an overall terrible album cover, but definitely not one of the better ones I've seen over the years.
No.
And at least just what you were describing, at least you had TVs when you were in elementary school. We were still dealing with film strips and slides, man. Yeah, there's a couple killer tracks on here, like Nothing Is Not As Good. I don't mind the drum solo, which is the track you can't pronounce, the Hymnos Rituales de Guerra.
Okay.
Come on, man, you're Puerto Rican. That's Spanish.
Shame on me.
I actually don't mind Invocation of the Continual one. The fact that it's almost 10 minutes long kind of fits the title, the track of the song, or the title of the song.
I get your point. Go on.
I mean, it's not too bad, but it's there, like you said, there's some on here that are just not good, like Hymn to a Gas Giant. Some of these, it's like, okay, they still have that Lovecraft, Necronomicon, Cthulhu vibe, and some of it's like, the hell are you talking about? What is going on here?
Yeah, no, and it's like I feel like sorry, I think their hearts were in the right place with this album, but I feel like they just did not.
My thought on that is they wanted to. We got a new singer. Let's go in a different direction so we don't get, so Steve doesn't get hit with the whole, oh, he's, just the new singer.
Vincent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
Steve Tucker's a great vocalist, but this album just didn't connect with me.
No, it doesn't. It didn't connect with me then. It still doesn't connect with me now. And going back and listening to this just really reinforced how I felt. Whereas like Blessed and Domination, I felt a bit fonder feelings, but Formulas was just like, ooh, yeah.
And again, it's not that it's a bad album. It just didn't hit for either of us, really. Like I said, so it's my number 6.
Okay, yeah. It does not resonate for me. I wish that it did, but nothing is for everyone, and that's okay. So I guess let's get to the G. Gateways to Annihilation. So I'm gonna go with number 4 on this. Yes, that means I did not stutter when I am ranking it above Domination. This is my favorite Steve Tucker album. This is the album that really put them in once again more in the stratosphere. They're doing tours with Pantera. A few of them, they did the Extreme Steel tour, Pantera and Slayer. That was a big deal for a death metal band to be on this tour in arenas in the United States. It was a big deal for them to be out there doing those type of tours. Massive deal. And I like how there is definitely some parts of this album that are a little bit more reminiscent of Blessed Are the Sick, if you think about it, because there's some slower, heavier parts. And I think it works to Steve's advantage, especially since he has a lot more of a super guttural vocal style. And I feel like those type of songs are more of his wheelhouse. And I'm like, oh, okay, he really gets a shine on here. And Eric Rutan is back in the band too, because as I forgot to mention earlier, he was on Domination, so he's back in the band with this one. Even Trey does some vocals on Secure Limitations, more of like a screechy type of thing, raspy vocals type of thing going, and I think it works actually. And it's hard for me to pinpoint my favorites on this one, but Opening of the Gates is, let's just say, that's far and away. That's the numero uno for me as far as my favorite album. And then somewhere out there, God of the Forsaken and To the Victor the Spoils are just kind of fighting for second place. I love this album. It's my first Tucker album, and it really still holds up for me, thankfully. Once again, that's my number 4. Where are you at, Imperatus, with your thoughts and ranking on Gateways to
Gateways
Annihilation?
for me is number 5.
Oh, okay.
Because going back and re-listening to it, because I kind of went, whatever, when it came
Okay.
out, because I wasn't too thrilled with, formulas. I was like,
Rightfully
oh, if it's
so.
gonna be more like formulas, And I heard a little bit here and there. I'm like, okay, it's moderately better, whatever. But no, it's probably the best out of the 2 albums they did with Tucker.
Well, 4, but yes, I get what you're saying.
Wait, 4.
Heretic and Kingdoms.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, he was on Heretic.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there was a fill-in singer for a small gap. Obviously, that Jared guy, but well, that's a story for another day.
But there's some great tracks on here, like you said. God is the Forsaken is amazing. To the Victory Spoils. I kind of liked Ageless Still I Am. It's definitely a turning point in my opinion for Morbid. Well, it's really started with Domination, where they leaned more heavy into the brutal side of death metal. Not that there's anything wrong with that, mind you, but they turned and put their own spin on that brutality.
Yeah.
And you think in the year 2000, this came out, and then they got to tour with Pantera and Slayer in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's a
death
big
metal
deal.
band.
Yeah, it's a big deal because you have the biggest groove metal band with one of the biggest thrash metal bands, and then you have a full-on, non-watered down death metal band on
Yeah.
a mainstream tour. It was a huge deal, and they put a lot of people who wouldn't normally check out death metal to say, "Yeah, I really like Morbid Angel." And I remember a lot of people who actually became genuine fans of Morbid Angel because of that tour. I remember they turned a lot of people onto the music.
Mhm.
So they were actually gaining fans from that tour. So, say what you will out there about Pantera, but I will always give Phil Anselmo credit for making sure a band like that got on those tours a few times, might I add you.
Yeah.
And he's a legitimate fan of good underground metal. And he even performed with them Day of Suffering a few times on the tour because obviously he's been very outspoken about his love of Blessed Are the Sick. I'm glad Morbid Angel got that exposure. If you had to have a death metal band that would deserve it from that very early wave, they're definitely one of the most deserving of the bunch. Do you got anything else you want to add to Gateways?
No, I'm not overtly familiar with the album as much. Like I said, I spent, listened to it a couple times this week. I'll say it stuck with me more than Formula's Fatal to the Flesh did, and
Oh yeah,
anything
so
that
much
comes
better.
after, but we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, we'll get that. The H album. Oh boy. The 7th album, Heretic. Oh, dude. I mean, I thought at the time I was complaining about filler tracks with Formulas Fatal to the Flesh.
Yeah, let's have a
It's
whole album of filler tracks.
it's worse here. It's Formulas Fatal to the Flesh on steroids with the filler tracks. You're like, dude, what are you doing? And surely enough, there are more sounds of the eye hints, and now it's not as subtle. Now it's like if it's rearing its head out of the water, almost like a Jaws buildup. You're like, ah, shit, here comes that ugly, nasty shark.
Mhm.
Oh, dude, this album. I mean, I think one of my biggest problems with it is even with a lot of the heavier songs, there's not many songs, if any, that stick. So they're not even bad. They're just forgettable. There's nothing that I remember. And I think that's, to me, that's the worst part, is that there's nothing I remember. I could put that album on. I wasn't wild about it then. My opinion is very reinforced now on that. It's a very forgettable album. And the only sad things I remember are the parts where you can hear the shift towards what becomes of the I album 8 years later. And this was at the time Steve Tucker's last album. So for me, this is going to be number 8. Where are you at, Imperatus?
I'm at the same ranking, number 8. There's nothing about this album that stands out, and it's just, I don't even know what they were thinking with this one. I remember the album came out, and me and a buddy went to the one shop I've told you about that was pretty much a metalhead shop, combination metal shop, head shop. And he's like, oh, new Morbid Angel. I picked that up. And the guy who owns the shop's like, oh, Morbid Angel fan. Yeah. How's the new album? He goes, you'll see. And I right there, I was like, oh, that's not a sterling
What an
recommendation at
endorsement.
all. So we go to leave. I think I grabbed like a couple Fin Troll albums that day. And
Probably better.
he's like, okay, let's check this out. We put it in, and we're driving back to, I think it was back to my house. Spark up a joint, we're going, and we're like, what the fuck is this? This is what Morbid Angel is doing now. He hated a lot of the shit I listened to, even though he was a metalhead. He really hated the folk inspired stuff. He was like, dude, put in one of those new albums he bought. He couldn't even get through this album, and he bought it.
It's a tough album to get through.
He's like, this is just awful. And then he got tortured with, Fin Troll for the next 20, 40 minutes or so. And this is at their height of sounding like Danny Elfman meets metal. So he's like, what? He's like, oh, well, I'd rather listen to this. And he hated stuff like Fin Troll, hated it, flat out hated it. And he was like, yeah, no, oh man. He's like, I might have to give this one a listen, on my own or something, like going for a walk and listen to it or whatever. He's like, but no. He's like, he goes, what the hell? And bear in mind, this was a guy who likes grind.
Oh, wow. That should tell you something. Oh, yeah, that should really tell you something. That should be a red flag, if you will.
Yeah. And even he was just like, no, I'm done with these guys. If this is what they're doing, he's like, I'll have to get like recommendations from people I know, like you and a couple other guys, if they've heard it, if it's good or not. But yeah, this album sucks. I hate to say it. I mean, not trying to be, a dick, but
it sucks.
Everything going forward from here is just a whole different level of suck.
It's a bad album. And I remember thinking, wow, this is not good. And I can't remember if it was Nurgle from Behemoth or somebody else. And if it was Nurgle and you're listening out there, you let me know. But I think it was him saying it wasn't a bad album. It just had a bad mix job. And I couldn't.
Yeah, the production was horrible on it.
I couldn't disagree with that comment more. I feel like I don't disagree with the mixing comment. I actually agree with that. But I don't feel like a good mixing job would save this album. I just
might be
the songs are that forgettable.
It might have made a couple of the songs that were borderline unforgettable or forgettable into like, okay, this song's actually kind of decent and stand out a little bit. But overall, no, the album still sucks.
Yeah. It's a bad album.
With a better mix, it would just suck less.
Yeah, it would just suck less. You're just polishing the turd. That's all you're doing. You're polishing the turd. So wow. Well, we're at our final two albums, and I think conversation is going to be fun with these two. Oh, boy. Okay, well.
Time to take our medicine. We got through the good ones. We got to deal with the absolute crap now.
And yeah, right. We were shredding on someone as if we weren't doing that enough, but boy, oh boy.
And this will be the second time this album's brought up in one of our videos.
Yeah. Right, in the short history of our channel. Okay, so this should be as obvious as Snow is White, Peter Parker's Spider-Man, Daniel Craig doesn't deserve to be James Bond, Illud, Divinum, Insanus, the I album, is number 9 for me. This album is horrible. I remember at the time being initially excited at the idea of David Vincent coming back to band. I didn't care that he looked like Nikki Sixx now, wearing his goth outfits with the band. It was, obviously at the end of the day, it's about the music, not the image. But you gotta admit, when you see him, the rest of the other guys, his image does stand out. It's like a pimple. And I'm David Vincent. No disrespect, I like you, but that image stood out so hard that to a point where it was distracting.
You're Morbid Angel, not typo negative.
Really distracting, yeah, considering he had rejoined the band. And that aside, I looked past it because, I still like the idea of him being back in the band. This could be really good. And then I remember reading the interviews, watching the YouTube videos of the interviews, and saying how there's going to be other influences. And I thought to myself, okay, industrial. Let's see what goes on there. I heard stuff about techno. And even though I'm not a techno guy, I do like industrial, especially heavier stuff. I'm a big Godflesh fan. I like some of the Downward Spiral from Nine Inch Nails. I feel like I like some KMFDM. I don't have any albums of those bands, but have I been to those live shows with friends and family and I enjoy those live shows? Yeah, I can at least appreciate for what it is and understand, okay, this is why this resonates with the crowd. I get why this resonates. Whether I like it or even fine, just not my thing, I can at least say I get it. And that's fine if you get it, but aren't wild about it. Then this album came along, and I remember they came the expensive pre-order where it came with like a candle and this cupboard, all this other stuff. I know a guy who spent $150 for that thing.
Oof.
Yeah, and I remember the Hitler reacts to this album, which that video sums up this album. If you ever haven't looked up, look up on your own
Oh, I
time.
need
Maybe
to
I'll
actually
just
look
send it
that
to
up.
you. The Hitler reacts. Remember, you know how that was like the longest
Yeah.
YouTube?
Hitler
The-
reacts to Disney buying Marvel and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
this one, Morbid Angel's Eye album. Oh, it's hilarious, and it sums up this album. And I remember hearing "Exists a Vulgar," thinking, okay, it's a pretty good song. I like it. I think it's good. It's heavy. It's what I remember of David Vincent, Arrow Morbid Angel. It sounds like it's the next natural step after Domination. And then I remember hearing Too Extreme, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I heard that other song, I Am Morbid.
Gosh.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I heard some of these other songs, and then even like the heavier other songs, and I'm like, these aren't good. They're forgettable like the songs on Heretic. And then I heard Radicult. Absolutely polarizing, offensively bad, horrific. And it's one of those things where it's so fucking bad where if you put another band on it, it still wouldn't be good. If this was a Rammstein song or a Nine Inch Nails song or a Godflesh song, take your pick. This wouldn't be a good song for them. None of these songs, the heavier songs or the more industrial, electronic, techno, this shit is awful. And that's saying a lot considering how bad Heretic was. I couldn't believe it. I was outraged. I was actually offended with how bad this album was. You saw how pissed I was in the last video. I'm equally as pissed now just talking about it. I'm still pissed. What? 14 years later, I just was looking for this is to me like this is gonna be the reunion, reformation of the century. Even if we didn't have Pete Sandoval, but we got David Vincent back. It's like, all right, Tim Young, he'll do. Fine, great. Oh, I was mortified by how bad this album was. Now, I did catch the tour when they toured for this album. They only played this song and Nevermore from it. Not really well about Nevermore, but Exists a Vulgar was cool. But other than that, they played stuff from A, B, C, and D, and they played one song from Formulas, which was shocking that they actually acknowledged a Tucker song in a Vincent show, which was Bill or Sag, which I'll admit Dave Vincent sounded good for that. But bringing it back to the album, it was horrible. It's offensive. It's still offensive. To me, it's still one of the absolute worst metal albums, worst death metal albums in history ever. Bar none. I don't feel like there's any dispute up for it. Obviously, it's number 9. I said it earlier. I'm just repeating myself now. I should stop while I'm ahead. Imperius, just
oh no, let it out. Let the hate flow through.
Go.
Yeah, this album's so awful. I remember another buddy of mine calling me like, "Hey, what are you doing?" No, I'm gonna swing by. All right, yeah, cool. He swings by and he's like, "Oh, I got the new Morbid Angel. How is it?" And he just starts laughing. I was like, that's not a good sign. He's like, oh no, check it out. He goes, especially check out that I Am Morbid song. I'm like, the what? It's just awful. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to music, there's good and bad of every genre.
Of course.
But with certain genres, when it's bad, it's really bad. Black metal being one of them, death metal being another. Industrial is also one of those. Like you said, there's some great ones out there. Godflesh, Front 242, Frontline Assembly, so on and so forth. But and even if you wanted to do a bit more of a death metal infused industrial, you have the band, which is a couple guys from Benediction and a couple of guys, I want to say, from Napalm Death, called Meat Hook Seed.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
And that was industrial,
Yes,
but that was really good.
Mitch Harris was huge into that stuff.
Yeah. So
Huge.
there is good industrial out there, but this was just bad all the way around. Like even the song that you mentioned that you liked, I'm just like, yeah, no, done. It's like, forget about it. These guys are done. Again, you're in a death metal band. You're not Eddie Van Halen. You're not Trent Reznor. I don't have a problem with you experimenting. Create another project for that experiment. Don't shit where you eat.
Agreed. Strongly agreed. Yeah. And they really overstepped their boundaries. And I felt like it was weird to think that, they were riding on this high for such a long time. And when they chose to plummet, they plummeted fast. And then when they noticed that they were plummeting, they go back to David Vincent. And for what assumingly is the reason, that he left, they decide, okay, well, we'll give it a shot this time with the I album. And it flops. I remember they did tours. I remember they did one tour in 2013. I remember this is 20 years of after Covenant came out. I thought to myself, oh, that's a cool idea, actually. I'll admit that. I'm not excited at the idea because I'm still mad about the I album. Well, I'll give him credit for the idea. And I'll admit, I got tempted at the last minute to going. And then I found out, then I thought to myself, hold on, they're playing the House of Blues. I don't know if a band like that could fill the House of Blues anymore. So for some context, the House of Blues fits somewhere between 1,100 to 1,300, somewhere around that range. I don't know the exact number, but I know estimally it's around there. Morbid Angel may have filled that venue maybe in 93, maybe even in 99, 2000, maybe. But 2013, with all the damage done to their band, they weren't going to sell that venue out. I thought to myself, the only reason they had to have booked that venue, it must have been the only venue available. And either way, and that should tell you something, with a tour on Covenant, I think from what I know, because I didn't go, I know some people who went though, and they said that the show was so poorly attended that they're giving tickets away not only at the last minute for free, but there only one bar of the bars was open. So if you're talking, and I've been told some people think around 2 or 3, maybe 300 attended at best. So let's just assume that it's 1,100, and let's not go 1,300. Let's aim a little lower. Even if it's 300 at best all of 1,100, that's still less than 30% filled. That's embarrassing. Why it wasn't another smaller venue for them to play? Once again, I'm just trying to be generous here. It must have been the only venue that was available for them, so they took what they could get. Which I still find hard to believe, because there's a lot in Chicago, a lot of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of them. We get spoiled. Chicago fans will deny it, but I'll say it. A lot of us are spoiled. But it was not a good idea. The tour, or at least that show, flopped. I can't imagine much of the rest of the tours, but I'm sure there's some shows that did well, I'm sure. But it was a sign that David Vincent's time in the band wasn't much longer. That was for sure. I know he did the Summer Slaughter tour with them after, and then he was out of the band. And of course, we all know the whole, who did he quit? Did he get fired? We'll never know. At this point, it was who cares what happened? This band is done. They are done. And then along comes 2017. Well, 2015. I get word Steve Tucker rejoins the band. I'm like, should I be excited? I don't know. I mean, I hear, Trey's cleaning house too. Everyone who else was in the band, ain't just Vincent is up, everyone else's. So did he just like fire everyone and decided that he needed to wipe the slate clean? Okay, I guess. Let's see where this goes. Maybe. I don't know. And then I was like, well, should I care? Should I give a shit? I don't know. And then comes December 1st, because that's that day I remember, 2017, Kingdom's Disdained comes out. I remember being immediately put off with the horrific digital artwork. There's some good digital art up there. This is not one of them. And I'm going to get into my ranking here. Shockingly, this is number 6. If you had asked me, though, in 2017, I would have put this between Heretic and Illud. I would probably, so it would have been 8. I'm going to go with that number 6, shockingly. But at the time, I thought, wow, okay, they're heavy again. There's not a filler amount of instrumental tracks. There's no track to overstay their welcome. But one of my biggest problems at the time, almost, 8 years ago, already that long, I felt like there was nothing memorable, which is now my harsher criticism I have towards Heretic. And in some cases, I thought it was even worse than Illud in some places. But then I went back to it recently, and I'm a bit fonder of this album. I'm serious, too. There's still some issues I still have with it. I wouldn't call it a great album. I would call it a pretty good album. I'd probably go with like a 7 out of 10. I feel like the heaviness, I can't believe it's me saying it, I feel like it's still one of its detriments is that there's a lack of variation in the heaviness. I feel like they were trying to overcorrect a little bit because of how polarizingly bad the I album was, that to the point where they forgot about some hooks on the song. Now, that said, though, there are more memorable songs on this album than I initially gave it credit for. The Pillars Crumbling is a killer track. Declaring New Law is freaking hard-hitting. Love that song. I'd probably say those two are my favorite songs. Steve Tucker's vocals, he still got it. I'd say the digital production, I get it, guys. It's the 21st century. But you gotta do something to make it sound less roboty.
Less clean.
It needs to sound more organic. When there's newer death metal bands that could sound organic, and you guys sound overly digital, I feel like there's a problem there. So I'm gonna go with number 6. I can't believe I have fonder feelings of this album. Like I said, I'd probably go with like a 7. But there's definitely its issues with this album, even though it's a number 6 of an album of the 9 albums. Where are you at with this one?
I haven't spent a lot of time with this album, but it's better than Heretic and the I album, so I'm putting it at number 7.
Okay.
You know, maybe it's not fair because I haven't really listened to it all that much, but anything's got to be better than Heretic and the I album.
Yeah, no kidding.
So just by default, it's going into 7th because it's definitely not better. The bits that I've heard is definitely not better than, my 1 through 6. And it's certainly not better than, the first 4 albums by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So it's okay. Let's see what they do. Like you said, the stuff I heard, I'm like, wow, okay, Morbid Angel was brutal, but they weren't all brutal all the time. Like they did have hooks. They did have slower songs, mid-pace songs, some doomier stuff, but if that's what you want to go, okay, let's put your, Morbid Angel spin on it. Otherwise, you're just going to be part of the dime a dozen death metal scene.
Yeah, they were overcorrecting. I feel like they really were overcorrecting. It's like Trey knew there was problems and he was acknowledging them with what he was putting out. But comes a time where it's like, okay, that's great you acknowledge that, but now you're overcorrecting a little bit. Where's that balance?
Yeah. You got to have all the best of the extreme metal bands, be it black metal, death metal, whatever. There's some variance into what they're doing. That's why I'm not as much of a fan of the newer Marduk albums, because they strayed away from it. It's just, for the most part, not 100%, but I think it's just pure brutality, back to front, and it's like, okay, cool, you guys made a freaking 25-minute album, good for you. Where's the variety in what you're doing?
Yeah. And people need to, like, if you're listening in the chat and you're probably like, clenching your pearls, you can be heavy as shit, super heavy, super fast even, and you can still have something memorable to have you coming back and humming the riff or humming or singing the lyrics. There, you can do both. So please don't try to like give me this whole shit about how it doesn't need to be catchy. Yes, it does, because
And it
it
does. You can
doesn't
be, like you said, you
matter.
can be brutal as fuck.
Yeah.
Like the entire album from Marduk, I'll use them for example. Panzer Division Marduk. Pure, unadulterated, hyper speed black metal from front to finish. But the songs had hooks. They had, memorable choruses. They had memorable leads, so on, and so forth. You'll be hard pressed to find an album that's more brutal than that album is from any band. But it, like you said, has variety.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who's the fastest. It doesn't matter who's the most technical. It's not a sport. It's about writing good songs. I know that sounds adultish to sound. I know it's not the underground cavil thing to say, but it is important you have that, because that's what separates you from the pack. It's what gives you your identity. And you can look at a lot of great bands through our time, memorable bands, and guess what? They all had hooks. So
Yeah,
if you act like
they
they
all had
don't,
their
you're
own
lying.
sound. The
Yes,
two
they
things you will hear me complain about the most, this goes, and you probably know this about me, but for our listeners, the two things you'll hear me just roll my eyes at the most is bad production. And again, I listen to black metal. I know what bad production is. And a band changing their sound. There's a bunch of bands that have done it over the years. It's like, why? You had a unique sound. Now you sound like everybody else. Prime example of that is a death metal band from Norway called Eternus. They had a great sound for like their first 3 albums, and then they changed it up, and then they sounded like Deicide.
But yeah, with Morbid, some of these albums got horrific. I'm shocked. I had fonder feelings toward Kingdom's Disdained. I listened to it again, and I was like, okay, there's actually some meat to the bone here. And once again, I just feel like they overcorrect a bit on a few songs, but there are hooks on this. You just gotta give it a few listens. I would say on your own time, give it another few listens. It really does melt with you, and I'm glad that it does, because I feel like though the one issue with it, and this will be our last thing, is even if this album ends up giving you and I fonder feelings, I think the one issue with this album, and not to the album's quality or lack thereof, it's that it's too little too late. Morbid Angel, I don't know if you're done. I don't know if Trey's in rehab. Trey, I do wish you the best, whatever it is you're going through. Would I welcome another album if it came out? Yeah, I would. I'll admit I would. I just don't know if many would. I feel like for many, especially in America, the ship has sailed for way too many.
Let alone a metal band, period. The only band I know that really puts time between releases is Summoning, and that's because the one guy's got health issues, like heart issues.
Yeah.
So, and there's been a couple times he's been in a bad way. So it makes sense that they're not doing music. But I haven't heard anything about Morbid Angel as far as that goes. That would make it so they couldn't work on something. At least 8 years is a long.
Morbid Angel can't just put out a good album. Even if I end up being finding like a 7, it needs to be like an 8.5. Like, hey, you're missing out if you don't listen to this. This needs like it be an 8.5 minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
All right.
Good, memorable tracks, killer hooks, the whole 9. It's got to be the full package. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, Morbid.
Yeah, people are done. So, anyways, that said, we're done. We have ranked all the albums, of course, the studio full-length albums for clarification, but it's been fun and Periodus. Do you got anything coming out your way on your own channel that we should know
might
about?
be throwing up another
this channel.
Yeah, I've been thinking lately about recording another review. I haven't done one in a while, but might also lead to good things for this channel too. Reviewing the Fog album that I've told you about.
Yes.
Because my buddy's band, number 1, and number 2, he's also got other bands he's in. bands he's been in, and he's got his own music distro. So give him a little bit of a promotion, let him, reap the benefits from our pleasure, shall we say. And that album, Winged Through the Night, I'm trying to remember the actual name of the album because it's black metal, so it's wordy. Through the Eyes of Night, Winged They Come. So they'll probably be doing that in the next. Yeah, the whole album's just killer, dude. So but yeah, I'll be probably putting that up, which will be on my channel. Probably then eventually make its way onto this channel.
Yeah. Okay. Killer. Let's see. We got videos, this one included, coming out on Bonded by Metal. We got another one from our buddy that's 70s rock fan. And we got other ones that we're in the works on. In the comments, what you guys put, hey, Nick and Imperatus, you should do an albums ranking of this. And maybe if we see enough demand, keywords, enough demand, we'll at the very minimum
also,
it doesn't mean we're in on it. We'll consider it. And be
also,
within
please
reason.
be considerate of us when you be like, hey, do the Cannibal Corpse. Oh, God. We'll be here for like 3 hours.
Yeah. Just do want to make sense within reason. Or worst put the name ? Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed our rankings video. Did you agree with it? Do you disagree with us? Is Kingdom's Disdained like, the best thing since sliced bread? Do you somehow like Illud? Shame on you. Or do you hate that we rated Covenant? I know someone out there is going to hate it that we both ranked Covenant #1. But guess what? We're right. You're not. So thank you for watching this video. You lay down your souls to the gods. Rock and roll.
And steak.